What's going on, folks? How are we doing? This is our first night of back from our summer vacation where we took off for June. So we have a couple housekeeping items we definitely have to go over before we do anything. But first, I just want to say thank y'all for coming here. You could have been anywhere in Dallas, decided to hang out with us. I take that very seriously, so thank you for doing that. Seriously, thank y'all. So if you are not familiar with today's topic, tonight is a night of UI UX. You see that I'm not speaking mainly because I can barely match the color scheme of my clothes, much less the color scheme of a website. And so probably not a good talk for me to give. With that being said, we had a lot of speakers come out very quickly to kind of throw something together. Now, for y'all, just out of curiosity, how many of y'all is this like your first night of with us? We're doing something, man. All right. So let me give you the rundown of how a night of works. A night of is basically our take on a mini tech conference. And the idea is the talks are lightning talk style, meaning the speakers can only really give you value for your time. There isn't enough time for fluff. There isn't enough time to ask about the weather. Every single minute is almost 10% of their talk. So it's very value filled. So pay attention, take notes, use it as an opportunity to maybe connect with the speaker after the fact to ask additional questions since they really won't have time for the Q&A. Now, for those in the room especially, but of course, those of y'all online, we don't ever forget about y'all. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you're not in our Discord, I highly recommend fixing that. We have almost 13,000 developers in there, with a big portion of them being within the Dallas area. So it's a great place for you to kind of connect with local developers, ask questions, find out relevant information to yourself, et cetera, et cetera. So I highly recommend using that. You can go to dallassoftwaredevelopers.org and you can get the link to our Discord, meetup page, all that good stuff, all the socials, they're all there. But you can also find out more about who we are and what we're doing. The second act of businesses, for those that don't know, when it comes to a night of just in general, is we usually have some sponsors involved with this, but we also have 6 amazing individuals that are joining us tonight that are taking time out of their schedule to really dedicate to the community. So for me, it's like huge kudos to them because they could be anywhere. They could totally not take this undertaking of making a talk last minute to kind of throw something together, because this is not necessarily you had this talk sitting on a shelf and you're jumping on. It's like it's a special time limit. People are adjusting it, trying to make it great for y'all. So please make sure you show some love to all the speakers that are dedicating their time to do this. So let's kind of go through 2 extra housekeeping items before we get to sponsors. One, how many of y'all in here have not heard of the phrase commit your code in relation to an event? Everybody's familiar with it? Oh, okay. For those that aren't familiar with it, there's no shame in it. Commit Your Code is a conference that we do, okay? Commit Your Code. It's a play on words, obviously, committing code, et cetera, et cetera. Last year was the very first year that we ever did Commit Your Code conference. It was a huge success. We donated. Commit Your Code, our take on a tech conference, but our big angle is it should be accessible to all, regardless of location or income bracket. And so I had spoke at a conference. When I spoke at that conference, one of the first things that I heard was, it's my dream to go to that conference, but I can't afford to go. So I thought, what could we do to make a conference accessible to those that work in tech, but don't necessarily have $2,000 to go spend on a conference, flights, hotels, et cetera, et cetera. That kind of gave birth to the idea of Commit Your Code. Commit Your Code, this year, we have roughly around 120 speakers joining us. And these aren't just average speakers around the neighborhood. These are like some pretty big notable names in tech flying in just to do Commit Your Code. 100% of every single penny that is sold via ticket, all ticket sales, it is donated to charity. We do not keep 1 cent of it. We also publish our financial data publicly, so that way you know exactly where your money is going. 100% of every ticket sale will be donated to charity, and tickets are $49 instead of $750 like the average tech conference in America. This is something that we do. If you want to go to Commit Your Code and you can't afford the $49, maybe you were laid off, maybe you're a student, something along those lines, come talk to me or come talk to Dennis. We will take care of that for you. We'll make sure you get a ticket. We'll make sure that no one knows that you got a freebie. Your meals will even be covered. You don't have to worry about anything. There's 4 after-party events. You'll be invited to all of them. It'll just be between us. Even the registration team will not know that you got a free ticket. If I don't want anybody to feel shame about asking for that. So with that being said, Hopefully, we'll see you at Commit Your Code. It's at September 25th and 26th. Highly recommend checking this out. It's a 2-day event. We're going to have roughly around 800-ish people, give or take. We're estimating that are going to be here. We host it here in this exact place where we're at now. So if you go to commityourcode.com, you can see all the details. You can see the speaker lineup. You can see the tracks. We're doing Java, JavaScript, Cloud, and .NET talks. And we are going to have, this is kind of last minute, but we have a leadership track. This is the most requested thing last year, which kind of blew my mind. We have a leadership track. So we have some C-suite executives, we have some vice presidents, directors. They're actually donating time to give talks. A lot of them are running organizations within the Dallas area, so it's going to be like some really great insights as well. But it's going to help you within growing your career. So if that's something you're interested in, those talks will be there. Those will be the only talks for those that may attend Commit Your Code online. Commit Your Code is completely for free, by the way. If you attend virtually, it will ask you if you want to donate something to charity. It's optional. It's not mandatory. You don't have to. But even like $1 goes a long way. So those will be the only talks that aren't streamed, though. Those will only be in the room talks. But every technical talk will be streamed online. Last order of business. Right now, if you came to our last meetup, you probably heard me talk about this. We have our cohorts going on. So part of our group, we actually do a cohort program. The cohort is completely for free. We do not monetize it in any way, shape, or form. I believe our last cohort, we had around 70% of the attendees land a job in tech within 90 days, which is really great. Like, I think the program kind of speaks for itself. The people that are graduating this program graduated with top quality skills, essentially. And so right now we have just started week 3 of our current cohort. The teams are working diligently. We have over 10 teams this time. So a lot of good value in there. Some of the cohort members are in the room. Some of the mentors are in the room. For those that aren't familiar with the cohort from DSD, what we do is we put junior developers on teams, usually around 6 to 10 developers, building a project that's actually worth talking about, that solves a problem, it delivers a solution, and it allows them to talk about it in a technical and non-technical capacity. And the reason why I say this specifically to this room is, if you see somebody apply for a role and they came from the DSD cohort, they have at least one project that is made at a high level that follows real life, real company working flows. So they're gonna come in with a little bit easier time to kind of onboard compared to the average junior, essentially. But they're being guided by professional software developers in the industry. So each team generally has at least 2 mentors on that team. So they're getting guidance from some real great individuals that are giving back. So if you ever see that on a resume, you ever see that on LinkedIn, maybe look at it a little bit stronger, because it may go a long way for you. All right. With that being said, I kind of went through all the housekeeping as fast as I could. We have one last thing, our sponsors for tonight. We have 2 big sponsors. Number 1, we are in their building. They donate this space to us. It's been over 2 years. They supported us every single time, every single way. They even host our conference. Can I please get a big round of applause for Yum Brands? Yes. Now, if you know us, we're very, very particular on the sponsors that we use. We don't just give any company that has a couple $100 access to our community, right? We're very, very diligent about who we pick. Yum Brands was a phenomenal sponsor for all this time. I think they've gone a long way. They've even grabbed some of our developers from these events, so I think that's always a big win. Our second sponsor tonight is Dexian. Can we get a round of applause for Dexian, please? They're the reason why we have pizza tonight, y'all. Now, y'all know, especially if you came to like some of our Night of AIs, that pizza bill is not friendly. And if it's not for great sponsors like Dexian, honestly, I don't know how we would maintain this for the long term. So Dexian, we have 3 people here from Dexian tonight. We have Tom, Jackson, and Brandon. Y'all want to raise your hands? There you go. See him. Thank you. So Dexian is the 8th largest IT staffing and services firm in the United States, and they have 70 global locations. So not just for those in Dallas, but if you're attending remotely, maybe check out a Dexian near you and let them know that you found out about it at DSD meetups, right? And so they were just named the 4th largest staffing firm in DFW and the #1 IT staffing services. They love to get involved with the developer community. I mean, that's kind of a big reason why they're even here tonight. And they reached out to us specifically just to kind of do this with us. They did the same thing with Java Mug. So they're definitely one of the few that are like supporting communities. And especially like when it came to commit your code, a lot of companies said no. So whenever you have companies like this that are advocating and saying yes, I think that goes a long way. And so they were just named Newsweek's most trustworthy company, ranked number 4 in business and professional consulting, and number 1 in staffing. They were also just named the 49th ranked CRM solutions partner, recognized for the work they do in custom app development, cloud modernization, and ServiceNow, and their investments in AI. So I know that they're hiring for a bunch of roles, so that could be a great conversation if you think that there's something on the grass is greener kind of side of things, or if you're looking for something new, maybe have a conversation with them when we do networking after the technical talks tonight. All right, y'all, let's get this show on a road. We have a bunch of talks tonight, obviously, so I'm going to kind of kick off the order that some speakers know, some speakers don't, so it's going to be like a surprise for some folks involved. But first up is going to be Vishal Reddy. Vishal.
All right, how many of you all are designers here? Okay. This talk is not for you, it's for everyone else, just so you know. Okay. Simple, don't fire your designers. My name is Vishal Reddy. I'm a software engineer at Apex Capital Corp. We do trucking, fintech related things. I work on the Android team. I also have my own LLC right now where I'm trying to revive an old lost art of semiotic engineering. More on that another day, not today. That's my LinkedIn QR code if you're interested. But what happens if you do fire your designers? It's really not a new problem because before UI and UX design have ever existed, design has pre-existed all of that, okay? If you know anything about UI and UX, you will know that it actually stems from the industrial design, industrial engineering side of things. So when you see the store, I know you're laughing. I know why. This is I think I took this picture. I'm not sure, but whether I took it or not, push or pull. Where are the hinges? It's actually push with the handle of pull. Do you know how many places in the world that there are things like this at? Okay, yeah, I'm looking over there, but anyway, I hope you've never seen a cabinet like this. I think this would frustrate just about anybody, right? I mean, would you ever think to push that to open it? It's the last thing you might think. Okay, rage clicks, okay? This one's a little tougher, so I'm just gonna straight up point it out. See the color under the number 5? Okay, so rage clicks is basically like if someone's like getting really frustrated with your app and it takes track of like how frequently they press and with how much intensity. It's supposed to signify how much they don't actually like using your app, okay? The number of average rage clicks per visitor dropped by 10%, but what color does it show? This is a real like production level UI interface for rage clicks. You ever seen this before? Yes. You've ever been to Central Market? This one hurts me because this is my happy place. Okay. All right. You see all of the monitors say lane closed, even the one at the very back. Sorry. Do you notice that 17 is lit? It's certainly not lit, but it is here, right? Why is it lit? The headlights are right on top, illuminating this sign right here. So this is the Fort Worth Central Market, and again, it hurts me, but really, I actually went to that register, and then after I went to that register, I stepped back and I took a picture because I was like, this is going in this presentation. Don't fire your UX designers because you will lose customers. There's something about UX that is unquantifiable. Please ignore the difference of padding on the left and the right-hand side if you are a UX designer. I am not a UX designer. Okay. You will lose customers. It's not always quantifiable, but you will lose them. Because you lose customers, you will lose money. You'll dislike your own product. I think this is an underappreciated aspect of building software and building software products. Okay. We're go, like every day. Like we have project managers. I'm not intending to offend any project managers here, but you know, constantly checking on, you know, when are we going to deliver something? And you know, I get it. There's a time to market aspect of things. There's an MVP aspect of things, but we really need to like what we're building, because if we don't, if we progressively hate it, it's going to show in the code, it's going to show in the quality, it's going to show in the product, and our customers are going to hate it too. Okay. Um, what goes on the inside really does matter. Okay. But what do your designers actually do? Okay. They solve similar problems to sort of the pictures that I showed you earlier. But the first thing you'd like to think of, or first thing you'd like to reference, is just the basic definition of design. I don't care if you disagree with it. I'm just take it for what it is, right? Okay, design, the use of reason to produce a work of a useful art with a consideration of truth, goodness, and beauty. Now, I say useful art to distinguish it from fine art, okay? Many people think that UI and UX designers are there to make things look pretty, okay? I hope they do that, but anything that is beautiful is not just pretty. An older ancient philosopher has defined beauty as such, that which has integrity, due proportionality, and clarity. These three things for him made up the very definition of beauty. So he expected that when you saw something beautiful, you would be transformed as well. There's something real to this, something significant to this. And if you care to debate it, I don't mind. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you know it when you see it. They don't just make things pretty. This is the book you need to read if you've never read it, okay? I think software engineers need to read this book, okay? This was transformative for me. So I'm a backend engineer before I was an Android developer. And you put me in front of a notepad with HTML and CSS and I just panic, okay? Any backend developers here have felt that way ever? Okay, yeah, right? Okay, fine, get one, but still, right? All right. It's hard. Like you look at that, and if you've never been taught the basics of color and patterns and all kinds of other things like that, you just freeze. Okay. And part of it, you'll end up just getting frustrated thinking, hey, it's just for somebody else who has that pretty gene or whatever. That's not how it works. You can learn this too. So how do you design everyday things? There's several basic ideas of design. I've just pulled out a few from that book. Affordances, signifiers, mapping, constraints, conceptual models, feedback. And you can apply these principles to just about anything, okay? My wife really loves to decorate our house. She's really good at it, okay? She knows how to find really good deals. But in reality, if I'm to kind of work with her on it and to try to make sense of what she's doing, I can apply these principles to the decisions that she makes in buying decor. So we just don't keep like buying stuff, donating it back to Goodwill, buying some more stuff, donating it back to Goodwill. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Okay. Affordances, signifiers, mapping, constraints, feedback, conceptual models. So what's an affordance? So this in the design community, this can be an often conflated term. Okay. An affordance refers to the function of something. Okay. When you think of what does this afford, you put that in a sentence, you've already got it. All right. So whatever my app or whatever, whatever I'm looking at, this product, for instance, this item is a door. Okay. What does it afford? The entry through the door. Okay. A door affords entry through the door. Say that 10 times fast. Okay. This door has signifiers. Okay. Poor ones, very poor ones, but it does have signifiers. Okay. A signifier is a sign which points to something else. Okay. A signifier is a sign which points to something else. Okay. So an example of a signifier for y'all, you've seen it, you've been on the traffic, you drive all the time. I hope you've never driven in California, but you see signs, you see street signs, right? And you've seen roads. The sign is not the road. The sign signifies the road. It shows you where the road is so that you may go on the road. Okay. Every sign is that which signifies something other than itself. Okay. So two divisions of signs. I won't go into too many, but at least the basic ones. There's the natural sign. A smoke is a natural sign of fire, and there's a conventional sign. The wedding ring is an example of a conventional sign. So it's things that we use that come into practice and things like that. So this actually plays into even things like color selection for UX design. A good UX designer is very familiar with the use of natural signs, okay? Red, warning, bad, blood, right? Green, good, grows, right? Things like that. Blue, sky, calming. Blue, water, not Texas waters, but blue waters, sorry. Okay, these are different though. An affordance is distinct from a signifier. Okay, signs are everywhere, okay? If we're sensitive to the fact that we are rational creatures and we're meant to interact with the world through the means of signs, it is significant. I say the word significant, we often use it to signify importance, but something that is significant signifies something else. Significant, signify, everywhere. Okay, these are called Norman doors in the book, The Design of Everyday Things. Don Norman, it's a joke of his that, like he just obsesses about doors. But this is an example of a Norman door. Push or pull, it looks like pull, but it's actually push. It's crazy. It's everywhere. Okay, this is at my kids' homeschool co-op building. Okay, it's a very old building. This is actually correct. Okay, on the left side, on the left image that you see, there is a pull handle, and that's where the hinges are. Okay, you're supposed to pull, and that's how the door opens, by the hinge. Okay, on the other side of this door is actually like a I forget what they're called. It's just like a plate you just push on. It's very clear that there's no way to pull on a plate. Okay, this is simultaneously using the right signifiers and also something called a constraint. Okay, constraints are proper limits to using something so that you end up using it the right way. Right, which goes into, let's skip a constraint. Forget it. You just saw a constraint. Okay. All right. Here's a mapping. All right. We saw those light switches in a previous image. Okay. That was crazy. I have to flip on every single light and then turn half the lights off, right? It's like debugging every line of code by the time I'm done with it. Okay. No. Great mapping in theory, right, would be like you have your dials, right? Or mapped almost as if I did the top left dial, it would turn up the top left burner, so on and so forth. Okay. Now there's some disadvantage to this. Don't get me wrong. Like one is obviously it's going to limit the number of burners you could probably put on this, but trade-offs everywhere. Okay. This is a conceptual model. Okay. Who's got an email? Everybody, please raise your hand. Yeah. Okay. Guess what? Your mailbox consisting of emails does not actually look like this on the inside. Okay. You start opening up your computer, please don't actually do this. But if you actually open up your computer, it's a bunch of switches and transistors and stuff that people other than me actually know about. Okay. But at the end of the day, a conceptual model is basically like an interface by which you can interact with something in a way that's familiar to you. Okay. And there's many such conceptual models. There's file systems. That's where the constraint slide went. Okay. All right. Well, I'll come back to that. Okay. File systems and the like. So those such things are helpful in order to interact with something that we are not familiar with. So the more familiar you are with something, that's a conceptual model. Okay. Constraints. Okay. I don't know if anybody has this USB port anymore. I hope we don't. I hope it dies, but it's okay. Well, whatever. Okay, so it is helpful because it signifies the use of a constraint because you can only put it one way, right? This particular USB port is only supposed to go one way. That's why there's plastic spacing, all kinds of other jazz like that. Okay. All right, feedback. Okay, this one's huge. We deal with this all the time, but basically, like we want to know when we press something that something happened, right? How many times have you seen an app where you've like pressed a button and like nothing happened and you're like, rage click, right? Okay. That's why rage clicks can happen, right? But a good feedback mechanism tells the user, oh, I've registered your UI event. In this case, it's just like a button crossing the streets. Okay, back to the file system allegory of the conceptual model. Very similar. This your computer is not actually made of file systems. It's not actually made of that. It's a helpful way for us to interact with it. Oh, how many software developers are here? Man, what? That's great. That's pretty good. Okay. Guess what? Object-oriented programming is a conceptual model. Okay. Functional programming is also a conceptual model. Okay. How it helps us interact with these things. You see, design is everywhere. Everywhere. Okay. All right. This is another one. This is a type of conceptual model that is also called somewhat skeuomorphic. And you basically give an older person something like this who's never interacted with maybe like a modern MP3 player and something that looks jukebox-ish or whatever you call this thing, they're able to interact with it because it looks very familiar to them, right? It's very useful. Okay, you need this book. Please buy it. Please read it. The Audible version is great too. It will change your life. Okay, credits and stuff. Thank you.
All right, for our next speaker, Kaleb Garner.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kaleb Garner. If you don't know me, I am a full stack developer working at a company called Halo MD. Before I was a full stack developer, I was working as a front end developer and designer, building websites for medical practices, mainly focusing on patient acquisition and practice branding. Now, UX and UI can do some amazing things for companies, for applications. It really drives the performance and what the application can really do. But we have all seen examples of bad UX and UI. I think the door takes the cake in this one, but I know you can think of a website with some bad UX and UI. Today, I want to go through 4 different examples of different UX and UI patterns that really hinder a website. And not only do I want to give you the examples, I want to give you the statistics that show how detrimental they are to an application and the mindset changes that we can apply to avoid these pitfalls in our design and development. So, first one I like to call death by 1,000 clicks. So, 80% of physicians experience fatigue within the first 20 minutes of electronic health record use. And I have multiple statistics and I have the sources underneath. But why does this happen? And you see the statistic below where physicians average 4,000 clicks in a 10-hour shift. Why does this happen? Why do physicians have to click so much in order to get to or to do their job properly? It's because we are demanding too many steps to complete basic tasks. These physicians know what they need to do, and in any industry, your users know what they need to do. They know what tools they need to use in your application. But if we start to bury those deeper in the application through a bunch of different navigations and different pages, it takes longer and hinders their ability to do their daily tasks. So how do we avoid that? We design with workflows in mind. We identify the most frequent flows and reduce the friction, whether it's through user testing or application shadowing, seeing how your daily users interact with your applications. And when we see these common patterns, we see how these users are using your application. In that way, we can reduce the friction. We can bring the tools that they're using the most up to the surface level. We can make it easier for them to access it and make their jobs easier instead of having to click 4,000 times in a shift. So when we recognize these patterns, when we see what tools these users are using the most, what can we do to bring that to the surface level? Well, we can offer shortcuts and smart defaults and different quick actions to bring the tools that they use the most to be readily available when they open our application. Now, if we want to take a step further, we start introducing personalization. In our applications, most of the time, there's going to be a variety of different users. The EHR example or using the EHR, for example, a doctor is going to use your application a lot different than the insurance coder or the receptionist, or all these different roles need to use your application in different ways. So we start using personalization. We design these dashboards differently depending on what users need the most. So the next one, the Maze Runner. Has anyone seen the Maze Runner? Has anyone read the book? I haven't raised my hand for the book. I'm sorry, I'll change that soon. But the Maze Runner and the statistic here, 55% of users spend less than 15 seconds on a website. And I'll show you why that's an important number in just a second. But there's a problem with a lot of applications. The users shouldn't wonder where they need to go next in your application. I'm sure all of you are very familiar with the dreaded Learn More button. And a lot of you are looking at this and saying, well, I can just read the paragraph up top and see what that button does. But here comes the issue. Your users are spending 15 seconds on your website. So the more time you're having to have them like dig into the context to figure out what these buttons are doing, or having to use context clues and figure out what your application is doing, you're wasting that time. You're wasting that attention that you have that user for that 15 seconds. So instead of using the Learn More button, I hate the Learn More button, I just want to say that. But what do? We design components without barriers. We use clear labels in our buttons, our CTAs, our links that clearly describe what's going to happen if I click this button, where this is going to take me, or what am I going to see once I click this button. And we start to develop with a no context mindset. Well, what does that mean? When your users visit your application, they're not going to have the context that you know. They don't see the number of different pages that you've built on the back end. They don't know the components. They don't know the code base. The only context that they have is what's currently on the page. So design with that mindset. You got to give the users, this is their first experience with your app. So you need to give them the context, be able to properly get to where they need to go and get the information that they came to your website to get. And here's another big piece of how we can stop designing our applications like a maze, is we reveal complexity only when needed. It's this idea of progressive disclosure. On your homepage, you don't need 3 paragraphs for your About Us section. That information overload is a very real thing that users experience. So instead of having all that information front and center right when they get on the site, you have a simpler, less context in that initial state, and drive them to the internal pages. Because once they get that intrigue, once you give them the context clues to get to the information where they need to go, that 15 seconds expands. Once you drive them to those internal pages where they're looking for the more context and looking for more information, that is where you expand this timeline. So that initial 15 seconds that you have on the homepage, as they start to go internal and find more information, they're drawn in. They start to get more invested in your site. Now, next one, no feedback. So 53% of users will leave a site if it takes more than 3 seconds to load. Now, imagine I went to Target and I find a team member, and I go up to them and say, I need to find the apples. Can you tell me where the apples are? And they just stare at you and look at you for like 5 seconds. Oh, the apples are over there. I'm going to have a lot of questions about why that interaction just happened. One, I'm going to wonder if they actually work there. And 2, I'm going to wonder, is that actually where the apples are? Our applications are the same way. When a user clicks a link or clicks a button or does an action in our app and it just sits there and doesn't do anything, the browser loader does not count. I want to say that right now. The browser loader does not count. But when we don't give feedback to the user for their actions, they're left wondering, and apps that fail to validate user input lose user trust. We're losing the trust when we don't validate what they just did on our application. So we need to start designing with clarity, using loading elements, toast notifications, and all of these other components that give clear feedback to the user that their action actually did something on the app. And when we start to validate this user input, when we tell the user, hey, what you did, we're doing something on the back end. Oh, no. What happened? You still see it? There it is. Kept you on your toes, that's fine. So when we start giving the user feedback and validate these inputs for the application, we, one, give the user confidence in their interactions. We give them confidence that the app is working the right way and that what they're doing in the app is doing something. And it validates the user's actions. We're telling them, hey, when you do something, something's happening on the site. So subliminally, we're telling them, hey, keep interacting, keep exploring the site. We're validating them to keep exploring our application. Now, this one gets a little bit spicy, but especially for the developers in the room. But how many people in here, I've heard this a number of times with with developers. How many of you have said, The design of the site doesn't matter. You can be honest. I've said it before. So a couple of people, that's fine. But 79% of customers will leave a site if it doesn't live up to expectations. So in this context, design shouldn't be put up to the back burners in our applications. And looking at it from a development standpoint, the design needs to drive the product and not the opposite way. When we have a professional design, when we really think about the UX and UI elements and how we lay out the story for our website, we're giving the user confidence to get to the important parts, to get to the tooling that we worked on the back end. So use design to drive the product. You build a story with your design. When someone visits your site, they should be able to see what story you're trying to tell, what feel they're going to experience when they interact with their tools. They should be able to tell what your company is about by the design. You give the user confidence in the brand, how you represent your brand, how you solidify through the typography for all these different things. You are solidifying what your brand represents and how you are represented on the web. And you're using design to build the user's trust. If I go to this site, I am not trusting anything I see. This looks like a walking pop-up. But when you really think about the design, really focus on the branding, really lean into design elements when we design these sites, we're building the user's trust from the ground up. So if you don't take anything else from this talk, the number one thing I want you to leave with is don't put UX and UI into a box. It is not just a color palette, it's not typography, it's not animations, wireframes, it's not any of these things that we can sometimes put UX and UI into a box. The most important part of UX UI is the user. We're making sure the user really experiences the full capability of our sites without the hiccups, without having to click 1,000 times to get to different parts of our app. UX and UI solidifies our app and makes our app a meaningful experience for everyone involved. Well, thank you for your time.
Zoe Liu.
And hi, I am Zoe. I am a product designer at Intuit, and I've been Intuit for around 4 years. This is my 4th year now. And my previous life, I have no design background, and I was a flight attendant, and I have 2 cats at my home, but nice to meet you all, and happy to see everyone online as well. But today, something I want to share with you all as because I know a lot of you are like having ideas on building your own app, or like you sometimes just don't have designers with you. So I want to share a sneak peek on like what designer think like usually. So this is like think like a designer starter guide. So what do I do as a designer? I know you all hear a lot about like UX, UI designer, but like also I'm product designer. So what are they? I think a lot of things the previous people already touched on, but what I do basically everything. I do research. I just talk to user, do online research, literature review, whatever, just to find out anything about the user that I am designed for. I design anything about Figma, anything on Figma, you already know. I also test my design before any release, meaning that I do usability testing, but sometimes in the reality, I also test design in product, meaning that we just launch it and we do A/B testing. We just wait and see the result and see what we can do. Or if there's like the A is better, the B is better, or maybe there's a C. So that's just like a cycle of like me looking at the metrics that our business put, or like, for example, this month we have 10% people, I'm just giving a number, we have 10% people drop out from our purchase funnel. What happened? So we're gonna investigate, we're gonna design it, we're gonna just put in product or test a user. That's just like a whole cycle, if that makes sense. So a lot with metrics and just business acumen kind of thing involved. But basically, I do a lot around a user. So I know that it is a designer starter guide that I was at first trying to pitch myself even, but like later on, I think about renaming it is actually for non-designer. Like this is a guide for the next 10-ish minutes. If you're like new to design, you're like working without a designer, you're probably just like side hacking your projects or whatsoever, or you're all by yourself. Or sometimes you're working with designers but you don't know what your designers are thinking about. Hopefully this is something that can kind of have you understand who we are at work. So what's in the guide? First, I will present to you 2 core principles, but throughout there will be 3 building blocks. Like Caleb said earlier, we have to know our user. We have to understand our user's mindset and all that. So there will be like kind of a cheat sheet that you can use. Unfortunately, we love principles. If we remember the book Design of Everyday Things, there's a lot of principles in there, and I'll give you some examples as well. But at the end of the day, how do we lead us to understand what's happening behind? How do we set up reusable style guide, components, and all that? So that's just an overview. So 2 core principles. The first one, know your user before coming up with the solution. Do not jump into conclusion. That's always the basic and foundation of UX design. The second core principle is design with intention and consistency. So it's about how you create a UI based on how you know about your user's behavior. So when I say know your users, I mean this. The users in the center, you really have to know them, and empathize with them. So this is a cheat sheet that I put together. Trust me, it's a watered down version of what designer used. This could be a lot of different charts, a lot of different maps that we use at work, or just to brainstorm with our PM, just get the team together. But like overall, knowing our user is first going from left to right. First is gathering context. Basically, what it does is to just learn what's happening around your user. Some questions that you can brainstorm around using 5 W's and 1 H, which everyone I hope is familiar with. For example, simple questions: who they are, what they're doing, when they're using your product, how are they using it, or how are they doing the tasks that they need to do if they're not using your product. So second column, right? Understand user mindset is like, have they said anything about their experience? Have they have any thoughts about their current experience? What did they feel? Feeling is really important here. We're just really trying to dive deeper into their mindset so that you can put yourself in their shoes when you design. And the last column is identify any action or friction. What are they trying to get done on your page? For example, if I want to order coffee, like what is the UI going to look like? What is the call to action that I need to put there? Or why do I want a coffee? When do I want a coffee? Maybe I'm just like a worker getting a lunch break. So what is their motivation? All those things would help you empathize with your user. And the most important thing for me, at least, is to kind of brainstorm some reflection question, no matter you already have a design out there already or like a product out there already, but something to reflect on. For example, just simply maybe if they're using their mobile app, then if my design on the website is even responsive, or if they say they don't trust our website, do we want to know why? How do I set up a better expectation in our product to install trust overall? Or just like if I want to order coffee, but I couldn't find the checkout button on my mobile app, then I would drop out, right? Like those are all the consideration we need to kind of reflect on when we design, just knowing about our users overall. So that's basically it. You ask questions, you take notes, you kind of summarize what you learn about the user, and then you reflect those learnings into your product, not by assumption. So that's why I emphasize, do not jump into conclusion, but really think about if it makes sense to your user. So that's core principle 1. Going to principle 2 is to design with intention and consistency. So we are obsessed with principles. when you try to understand like how to design with intention, you put UX principle on Google. These are the thing that you probably will see on the Google result. Um, please do not get intimidated by these wordings. They're all super simple, and I'll walk you through some of the example. But yeah, please do not feel intimidated. Um, I'll just go straight into the first one, right? Basically, this principle is like anything that's closer, bigger, is easier to spot, easier to find, and you can just act on it. Like if I go to Netflix, then I just want to watch a show, and obviously I want to click play button, so they make it really obvious. Or on Discord, I haven't have Discord yet, right? I want to go on their website and download, and their buttons is just right there in the center. So that's just how this UX principle work. But there's also example that I've encountered. If you play a mobile game, there is a mobile game ad happen within your mobile game. But oftentimes they don't show you where the close button is. But what they make bigger here really is the install button. And I waited for 20 seconds, sorry, 20 seconds to get my way out and go back to what I was doing. So this is how they use this principle kind of control what user can or cannot do. So this is not ideal. I'm just showing an example here. I'm not trying to tell you what to do, what not to do, but you should think about something like this when you design. Another principle is that the more choices a user has, the longer it takes to make a decision. Working it into it, I feel like I have to put this example out here, but basically for like a really lengthy tax filing process in TurboTax, kind of we chop the process out in chunks and categorize them so that user can go into each section one at a time. And even within session, there's always only one question at a time. So you go through the flow kind of really quickly. You feel like, oh, I know how to file my taxes. So it's just install more confidence and feel like there's not a lot of information overload throughout the flow. And then another example just within the app too is like maybe, I forgot the number, but around like maybe 80% people don't apply this question, right? So they already pre-selected, none of these apply to me, and then they just hide the rest of the information. So this is more like kind of chunking things out, making decision making more easier. People will have less decision fatigue, if that makes sense. So that's just an example. Going into this one, user expect your product to behave like the others that they have already used. And I think this is very, very useful one that I'm still using it day to day, even though I'm designing for like users that I already know, people that I know their behavior pretty well. But let's say I'm just giving an example, right? All of you have to, all of a sudden, you're assigned to design a ride-sharing app. So if I don't have users, if I don't have designers, what else can I do? So you can look into maybe your competitors or any other products that are doing the same job. For example, if I pull up like here, Uber and Lyft side by side, you can already tell there is a pattern across, right? There is the input field, just letting people put their destination in, and then you can select ride from the list, and then the final screen is you will get a pickup time in your confirmation. So these are the things that keep repeating because also users don't actually care. They just want to get from A to B. And how are you going to reduce the learning curve if you create something new, leveraging what they already are familiar with? And the last principle I'm presenting is about visual grouping. I think just looking at this screen on this Expedia website, you can already tell where is the global navigation, where is the search bar, where is the filter. You can already section everything out really easily like this. And there is psychology behind as well. So like I said, this is really simple, but that's something that we all often think about in design. For example, the search bar here, all the input field are grouped together because they look alike and they're close together. So they are one section on its own and they serve the same purpose. There's also a principle called closure. Basically, without or with a border, you already can group something together automatically. It happens in your brain. So it's really naturally just happen. This grouping and design based off of all the psychology that we know from general user. Another example is the figure ground. It just helps you to distinguish what is on top of the main screen. So in design, if you translate to maybe styling, like if there's gonna be elevation, what's the shadow, and all of that. So what is the visual cue here you're presenting to the users? These are the things that's popped. And of course, without me telling you, you already know that there is a flow going on from top to bottom because there is the cutoff of the page. You know there will be more than just two results in this search. Though, so these all are helping us as a designer or just overall the page layout on like how we should group stuff visually, presenting different section using different visual cue. So you might have thought about like now you're noticing some of the things are repetitive here. You probably start questioning how much spacing, how much, what is the alignment of each of the elements? How should I group my design on a page? So all of these, you can have it designed. You can have it documented in your in your maybe notes or whatsoever, right? But think of it this way. If you start designing on your landing page and you already make those visual cues, all the decision that you have, you're going to have to apply the same to maybe your sub page, maybe your other pages. So documentation is definitely one of the things that we highly recommend everyone to do if you are creating your own design. So this is what we call design with consistency. You don't want to reinvent the wheel. These are just example on maybe some more established company that already have their design system. But the point is this is how we document our UI decision. And you can often look at them as a reference, as an inspiration to create your personal component kit. And I do have like a really quick example here just to show you what are the basics that could be included in your documentation. And we often call it style guide. You might have your color scheme defined. You might have your header, sizes, typography defined. You might have your spacing defined. So you're based on your design, you start to make rules and definition around how you should build up on for your design so that your design makes you make your design more consistent. And essentially using those foundational things on this page, if you come to building up further, you can use those foundations to create reusable buttons, reusable cards, and even just have grips, card grips together and define like a fixed spacing unit. So you can build out more and more. And that is something I want you to take away today, which is the 2 core principles, 3 building blocks. And final takeaway is design with empathy, know your users, and also define with intention so that you know the reason of why we are creating certain UI style, and then build it up when you get to reuse your components. And that's it. Okay.
Next up, Brendan Ward.
All right. Max, they just work, right? Hey guys, I'm Brandon. Today we're going to talk about some high-level stuff. I love the talks that you've seen so far. You've hit the Gestalt principles of design, super high level. You've hit the Don Norman stuff. You've hit, it's just so many good UX principles and really low-level things. This is not that. We're going to talk about really high level things. And if we leave today and you only take two things away, I want them to be this. Everybody in this room is a designer. Every single person in this room. Because design is solving problems. It still matches the definitions that you've seen. It's just a tighter one, right? So today we're going to learn how you and we as designers can unsuck the future through the power of design, right? So this is me. Been doing this. Oh, I need to update that. What is it, 25 years? It's 2025. So 25 years I've been doing this. A lot of clients, Toyota Match, Microsoft, Boeing, etc. I have degrees in the arts, singing, acting, and music theory and comp, and then a master's in interactive media. And then I teach whenever I can. I taught at SMU for a while. In a hiatus, would love to teach some more. I co-chair my own meetup, the Service Design Network Dallas. So if you've heard of, if you like UX, you should check out service design, right? It's kind of the next level of stuff. Hosting a conference this October. Would love to talk to you guys because, oh my gosh, it sucks. But it'll be awesome. Like putting on a conference is so hard. I love to fight, love cars, love to sing. Been married 27 years. Got my oldest son here with me. It's his first meetup. Yay! He wants to work for like SpaceX and be an aerospace engineer and stuff like that. So I was like, I know nerds. Let's go see some. So here we are. This is me, social media, stuff like that. And we're off. Okay. So this talk was inspired by the work of 4 key people. This is them. If you're going to take a screenshot of anything, take a screenshot of this. So you see them, screenshot, take a photo. I'll take a screenshot. But this one, these are the people, right? These are the movers and shakers. They've written books. They have blogs, lots of really amazing stuff. All right. So you've all seen this before, right? It's user story. As a blank, I want to blank so I can blank. As a human, I want to tap and click on nouns so I can do verbs. But think about it. Okay, so you may have heard this. Nobody wants to own a 1/4-inch drill bit, right? I mean, unless you collect tools just because you're weird. But if nobody cares about that, what do they care about? They need a 1/4-inch hole. Okay, that's what they need. So it's not as a construction worker, I want to buy a 1/4-inch drill bit so I can drill a hole. That's really not what it is. It's I'm hanging a shelf. I need a way to hang a shelf. There are a million ways to do it. Sometimes it's drilling a hole, et cetera, et cetera. So nobody wants an app, really. As a user, I want an app so I can tappy, tappy, tappy till I die, right? Nobody wants that. We want to accomplish a goal or a task, and I don't know what's going on. All right, so this is me, okay? On my iPhone, I have roughly 383 apps. There may be more since I wrote this. I did the math, I checked the logs, and I spend almost 40 hours a week on my phone for some horrible reason. And this is the order of things that I use because I'm awful and it sucks. But I don't want to do that. I never wanted to, but it's what I do because dopamine. Yay. Right? But so this is not where we want to be. Mr. Yuck, anybody? Anybody old like me? All right, you got it. So this is not okay. And this is designed. All of this was designed to control me, my attention, my time, all of those things. So think about that user story. As a husband, as a father, as an employee, as a friend, I want to engage with websites so I can get my dopamine hit, right? Is that really what we want to do? Why did I originally get Facebook? I actually remember why. We moved to the Philippines and I wanted to stay in touch with my family and friends in the United States. That was the use case. Right? And now it's apparently because I love looking people melt down over the smallest and biggest things in the world. I don't understand why. Think about it. In '85, the Cray supercomputer weighs 5,500 pounds, just under 2 billion flops, took up 16 square feet. The iPhone 12, what are we on, 16 now, right? 11 trillion flops. And what do we use it for? Okay, right? This is what we use it for. I'm not saying I love Doge and I love cats, but honestly, what else do we use it for? This is a real thing. Why? Guys, the future is stupid. And we're making it that, but not really. The present that we have designed is stupid, right? But do not fear. We can unsuck this, okay? Because design is solving problems. We've got a problem. I'll solve it. Check out my slides and, then we'll resolve it. If we want a better future, here's how we're going to do it, all right? One, we need to design our technology to work together for humans to make us better humans. Okay, it needs to be cyclical. Right now, think about it. We live in echo chambers. All the algorithms that we write and you code and we design and you code and they tell us to build and we build it, right? We're doing this to ourselves and we're making ourselves worse, right? We need to design technology to make good decisions, not decisions. Good decisions together for humans to make us better humans. We need to gather good data. Okay, why? We need to do this together for humans. Sensing a pattern, right? To make us better human. And we need to design technology that will seek to know us as individuals, us as a human race, us as an animal on the planet. We need to do this because we're not doing it right now, not to the scale that we need to, and not in a way that will make us happier to live here next year and 10 years from now. And when my son, heaven forbid, has a kid, right? Please, many years, please, son. All right? There are professions more harmful than industrial design, substitute any design, but only very few of them. Okay, this is Victor Papanek. Think about why. Why are there so many professions out there, but so few of them as harmful as design? Let's take a look at some negative social effects of technology in general, okay? Social isolation. Excessive use of tech may lead to reduced face-to-face interactions, contributing to social isolation. My 21-year-old does not have her driver's license yet. She doesn't care. I had to force this guy to get his driver's license. He didn't care. Why? Because everybody was in Call of Duty. Like everybody he wanted to interact with was in Call of Duty, right? I'm calling you out, buddy. Sorry. But I would if you weren't here either. It's just more awkward now. But the point is they didn't need to, right? Technology has changed social interaction, and some people get that connection, but it can lead to isolation in unhealthy ways. It can lead to cyberbullying. Roblox, oh my gosh, kill it with fire and kill it now. It has been the bane of my existence. Not only is it annoying and just looks awful, but my daughter was, what is the word? Preyed upon. Predators found her through Roblox when she was like 13, right? My 11-year-old son keeps trying to play it and different things in the Oculus, and we find him chatting. We're like, do you know this person? No, like it's so bad, right? Privacy concerns, the digital divide. There are a lot of there's just a few of them. Oh, and there are also psychological negative effects. Okay, there's addiction. I probably manifest some of that, right? Do you think I'm addicted to my phone? Honest. Yeah, my kids do. They think I am. I didn't even grow up with one. I didn't get my first cell phone until my wife was pregnant with our first child. I was like 24, right? And yet here I am, right? Wordle, right? And it's bad. Anxiety and stress, FOMO, right? I've uninstalled Facebook before, and then I just logged into the website. And then I got so frustrated with UX, I downloaded the app again, right? But because I feel this FOMO, I'm an extrovert. I need to connect to people, and all of my people are not here, right? And so I use it to connect to them, and that's a good thing, but not always, right? There are also emotional negative effects, desensitization. Think of all the things that we see, all the things that we hear, and we see it again and again and again and again. All of a sudden, it doesn't mean anything anymore. Reduced empathy. which is a key element in UX design, right? And app design, overstimulation. Oh, and don't forget the negative physical effects of technology, okay? Right? So sedentary life, right? I weigh 230 something pounds right now. I just gained 7 pounds on our vacation. And a guy at the meetup last night, I wore a blazer last night. It's a really nice jacket. And I had the top button buttoned up. And he's a friend of mine. And he goes, "Hey, Brandon, you got to unbutton that button." I'm like, "But, oh, no, I'm standing. I'll unbutton." He goes, "No, you need to unbutton it because it's getting stretched." I was like, "Oh, okay." Right. And it's because I sit in front of a computer or I stand at my standing desk all day and I don't do a lot. And when I get home, what do? More iPhone. Like my wife and I sitting on our bed, scrolling. There's a show playing, but we're also on our phone. It's awful. Like, and my story isn't unusual, I don't think, right? But you get eye strain, text neck. My other son, we think that his myopia is due to iPad use early on. He was really, really into iPads. And we think because he was always looking at devices that were from here, he developed myopia, where my other kids didn't. It's weird. Oh, and don't forget this negative social, right? There's a negative theme, if you sense this, right? Cognitive effects, shortened attention span, memory impairment, information overload, all of these documented. Don't forget the environmental effects, okay? Erica Hall posted a tweet today. She said, "I asked ChatGPT to generate the most cringe social media headline it could possibly come up with. And it responded, oh, hey, girl, you burned down half of a rainforest for this?" And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. Like every time, like I saw an ad for a shotgun today. I was like, why are shotguns cheaper than regular guns? And it's like, and then as it was rendering its thing, I'm like, how many trees just died to answer that stupid question, right? And there's e-waste, there's energy consumption, there's so many problems with what we're doing and how we're doing it. Again, right? It's the Jeff Goldblum problem, right? So many people spend so much time wondering whether or not they could. Nobody stopped to think about whether or not they should, right? And there's just one more negative. The geopolitical effects. And you'll notice that there are a few more here, right? My mom and my stepdad, my mom is 89. And so you can guess what political bent they side on. And they asked me once, "Brandon, aren't you afraid of the deep fakes and whatnot?" I said, "Yeah, but I'm not afraid of them because of people making fake videos to trick people. I'm afraid of them because now real people can do really bad things and just go, deep fake." There's a bunch on here. Okay. Designers are responsible for the work they put into the world. We have to own that. But don't panic. 42. Here's how we unstuck the future. If we design the work toward the betterment of humans, we just measure real value, we teach our tech to understand humanity, and we design with integrity, okay? What does measuring real value mean? Okay, from 1999 to 2015, for 16 years due to bugs and glitches in the Horizon IT system designed and built by Fujitsu, Britain falsely accused some 27 postmasters of theft and fraud, leading to dismissal, and in 700 cases, arrest and imprisonment. It ruined countless lives and drove some to suicide. The erroneous convictions have been described as one of the greatest miscarriages of justice in British history. Fujitsu owns it, but it was a software bug. A software bug, okay? We have to measure real things: compassion, integrity, respect, responsibility. Everything we put out into the world, we are responsible for it, okay? Every little thing. And when we think about, what possible effect could this have? Think of the postmasters in Britain. We need to teach tech to understand us. Make it, if it's going to be conscious and self-aware, great. Help us understand real consciousness and real self-awareness. Our language, our symbolic communication, and the good stuff. Not when Microsoft released that AI and it was a racist in 12 hours, right? Right? Abstract thinking and creativity. Feed it the best stuff, not the bad stuff. And help it. We need to teach it moral and ethical reasoning, whatever that may be. This may be in your little app that measures kitty yawns. I don't care, right? No matter what it is, you have to consider these things, right? Integrity is key. Carl Mazer said, place me behind prison walls, walls of stone ever so high, ever so thick, reaching ever so far into the ground. There is a possibility that in some way, one or another, I may escape. But stand me on the floor and draw a chalk line around me and have me give my word of honor to never cross it. Can I get out of that circle? No, never. I would die first. That is integrity, right? Draw a line in whatever concrete you call your compass and do not cross it, and teach others to do the same. All tech just needs to work together for us, make those good decisions for us, gather that good data for us, and seek to know us. In order to do that, we can design things measuring real value, teaching tech to understand us, and then if we design it with integrity, we can't fail, okay? So you've got a more human future now. Instead of automated stuff, you get human plus AI, right? What's the word? Synergy, right? Instead of single source data, you get multi-source data. So you can get all sides of things. It's not an echo chamber. It's real value, showing that fuzzy gray middle where the truth probably actually lies. You get, instead of menu-driven, you get that conversational approach because it's personalized. It knows us, and it wants to help us, not double down on our biases, right? Instead of clever, make it vulnerable. Instead of persuasive, help us, right? Remember when the iPhone first launched, and if you asked Siri, how do I kill myself? It gave you map directions to the nearest bridge. A lot of people don't remember that, okay? It's a lot better now, but somebody shipped that without thinking, without asking the deep, hard questions. Okay? Every industry and every sector of society is powered by technology today and being transformed by the choices made by technologists. In closing, remember, everybody here is a designer. We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams. Where is my cursor? There we go. Wandering by the lone sea breakers and sitting by desolate streams, world losers and world forsakers on whom the pale moon gleams, yet we are the movers and shakers of the world forever, it seems. With wonderful, deathless ditties, we build up the world's great cities, and out of a fabulous story, we fashion an empire's glory. One man with a dream at pleasure shall go forth and conquer a crown, and three with a new song's measure can trample an empire down. We, in the ages lying in the buried past of the earth, built Nineveh with our sighing, and Babel itself with our mirth. And o'erthrew them with prophesying to the old of the new world's worth, for each age is a dream that is dying, or one that is coming to birth. Thank you.
So we're supposed to have one more speaker. I just found out that I gave her the wrong date. So we won't have one more speaker, but what we're doing instead is we're going to be having them speak at our next meetup, which, by the way, is a really good time for me to say, if you're interested in speaking in the next meetup, let me know. It's going to be a night of JavaScript. So JavaScript related talks, would love to have some people. We have that meetup in particular is sponsored by Vercel. For those that don't know, Vercel, phenomenal platform, especially if you use anything in regard to like Next.js, you've interacted with them in one way, shape, or form. And a speaker from Vercel is actually coming to the event, so that should be a good one there. Probably going to need like maybe 3 more speakers. So if you're interested in giving like a JavaScript-related talk similar to what you saw tonight, would love to have you there. Let me know. We'll have that conversation. Traditionally, the way that we end all of our events, it's a ritual around here, I guess, at this point. But essentially, the way we end it is we bring everybody up. We take one great big group photo. So if you feel comfortable, please come up to the front. Would love to have you be a part of this. And if you don't feel comfortable with it, completely understand. We'll never make you. I'll just Photoshop you in after the fact. And so please come up. We'll take a photo. And then after that, we still have the room for like another 30 minutes. So everybody can kind of network, connect, and all that good stuff. Yeah. Did I not put you up already? Hold on. We have one more speaker. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I thought I already called you up here, Caleb. Whoa.
Me too, Caleb.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I crossed you off. Whoa, Caleb. Oh, wow. Caleb Jenkins. Yes, yes. Whoa. I crossed you off on the list.
There's
And the
two
other
Calebs.
Caleb went up. Yeah.
You know,
That's
it's okay.
whoa. Oh.
I was doing
Yeah.
the math and I was like, okay.
You were
All right.
after the other Caleb, and I crossed you both off.
Oh,
Wow, that's me. That's
the other
me.
Caleb, Caleb
Caleb Garner.
Garner, right? He
No.
spells it with a K though.
Yeah.
That's true. It's all good, Danny. Bonus round. How's that?
There you go.
Honestly, we should have ended with because that's why I came, was to see Brandon. What's that? I appreciate that, man. Good people. All right, everybody good? Stretch, feeling good? I know Brandon's a good keynoter. I'm a good penultimate. No. Oh, and you holding up a cat. Paul, thank you so much. That's good. Thank you. All right. Does anybody know where these lyrics came from? Stop, collaborate, and listen. Thank you. From the great American philosopher, Vanilla Ice. So I'm going to jump in here. We're going to move fast. If you need the slides, that QR code, it'll come up again in a little bit, and it'll take you to where those slides are. My name's Caleb. It's nice to meet you all, spelled with a C. All right. I know. Okay, that's an old picture. Beard now. I got a family. That's an old picture. There's a family. They keep growing. Family gets bigger. I've worked at a lot of companies. Like I said, we're going to move fast. I just finished at Charles Schwab, and next week I'll be doing technical coaching at American Airlines. Good times. It's a lot of fun being in the world that we're in. Do you guys get amazed at the world we're in? You get to create stuff out of nothing. If you took the entire internet, let's go. If you took the entire internet and weighed the electrons, it's the weight of like a tennis ball. Do you guys know that? Yeah. It's like we make stuff out of nothing. That's amazing to me. I'm still just blown away by that. All right, let's jump in here. One of the things I used to do is I worked at a company called Get There. I'm going to try to stay away from that cord. How's that? Okay. Get There is a travel product. I mean, you guys have ever used Travelocity or something like that? Okay. Yeah. Jeremy, who used to be at Travelocity. That's how we met. So I worked with a design team, and this is where we were. Had a fun space. I got to lead a great group. That was my daughter, who's now 18, when she was just hanging out with us. So just a lot of fun. But I myself was leading a team. I was not on the team. In other words, I am a UX manager. I make users cry. Okay, so it's not really in my DNA. You don't want me being the person behind the mouse and the keyboard and building the things, right? I just want to set the stage and be very clear. But the greatest challenge that we run into is what? Not creating what the market or customer wants when they need it. So we're going to stop, collaborate. All right. Circa 1990. Thank you. Great Vanilla Ice. Okay, so I just want to share some of the lessons learned from the team that I got to lead. Okay, sketching, hugely important. It's just some real practical stuff that you can take and run with, and some things we're going to go quickly through. Why do I think sketching is so important? Right? Imagine you're sitting here, you're sharing with a person. What's that? There was okay, it's all right. Okay, did you say beeper? Oh, reverb. It's off my voice. That's it, because I'm so powerful. It's causing, the building's going to come down. That's amazing. All right, so, I promise I'm not touching that chord. Okay, so, you try to explain something to someone and what they're thinking about is completely different, but neither of you know it. Right? How many of you have experienced that? Because you've ever tried, yeah, okay, everybody, you're human, you've experienced that. This is why it's so important. If one person grabbed a marker and just put it on the whiteboard behind them, all of a sudden it's like, oh, now we've got the same thing in our head, right? This is why you always want to pick clarity over agreement. There's nothing worse than thinking you're in agreement, but you're not, but you don't know it because you never had clarity, right? Okay, so this is why these things are important. So you want to do some sketching, get yourself some supplies.
I'm not going to spend much time on these, but here's the thing. When I do workshops or when we're leading to solve business challenges, if you work with designers or if you are one, there is a tendency to say, oh, here, you do the drawing and I'm going to watch. My rule is no. Everybody sketches, right? Because everybody can do a line and a circle and a square, and you don't need to be complex. Fair? Yes? Okay, cool. All right. Also, when you're sketching things, try to be quick, right? Come up with lots of things versus quality, right? You're just trying to sketch ideas, get the ideas out of your head and onto paper so you can talk about them, so you can look at them, so you can share them with each other. Quantity over quality. This is not the time to be, super pixel perfect. Yeah? Okay. All right. Some simple principles of prototyping. So sketching is just a foundation, and now we want to go to prototyping. How many of you have ever built a prototype of some kind? Anybody? What are some of the tools that you've used? What's that? Figma? Did I hear Figma? Paper. Paper's awesome. It's the best. I brought a bunch of paper prototypes here. All right. So what's the difference between theory and practice? In theory, they're the same. In practice, Albert Einstein, smart guy, I've heard. All right, so lo-fi versus hi-fi. It's the goal of doing a prototype is not about creating a high fidelity match necessarily. Sometimes depends on what you're checking, but generally speaking, the purpose of a prototype is you're testing some kind of interaction. That's what you want to do. You want to understand your customer and their workflow and what they're doing. Okay, so this would be a paper. In fact, I have this paper version. It didn't go to production, so I can keep it and I can share it. It's fine. If I were to give this to you and I would ask a question, I would be like, okay, so I put this paper, actually right here, right? And I sit it on the table in front of you. And I said, hey, if you wanted to see standard options, what would you do? And you would say, I'd click on those standard options, right? And I'd be like, that one? And so when you do that, what do you expect to happen? Oh, I'd expect it would. Okay, so let's do that. And I just, oh, it works, right? I'm just putting a different piece of paper. You with me? It does not have to be complicated, right? If I were to say, hey, if you wanted to know about the preferred guidelines, what would happen then? I'd probably click on that preferred guidelines thing. And I'd be like, oh, really? And because the paper's kind of thin, it looks like a light box. It's kind of a UX, amazing. And then I say, how would you close that if you wanted it to go away? Except we had a user when we were walking through this, and he just clicked anywhere on the page. And I stood there and I looked at him. And he looked at me. And he just clicked somewhere else. And he goes, are you kidding? You're going to make me push that X? And we all went, yeah, that's a really good point. That's stupid. There's nothing to do here. It's just to read something. Why are we making you click the X? But we discovered that, in like 30 seconds by having a real person sit there with paper, and we didn't have to, we have an unlimited license. Did you know that? I have a site license to use this all the time. It's amazing. And so the kinds of insights you gain happen pretty quickly that way, and I love it. All right. Little higher fidelity. How would you make something like that if you wanted to make like a login page? What could you use? You could say Figma, that's okay. Could you do it with just like PowerPoint? Yeah, right? And so this was actually a scenario where we would have people come in from the outside world and they would come in to use our stuff, only it didn't always work, right? So the whole point of prototype, you're testing a specific interaction, therefore everything else can be faked. It doesn't have to be real or live or working or functional. It can be static images, and then you can just, oh, look, those are two different images, right? And that's fine. I get interaction just with two different images. Okay, and then in PowerPoint, you can actually hyperlink specific buttons to go to specific slides, right? And so that we weren't using PowerPoint here, but it could have been. And now I'm logged in, right? And so I'm testing interactions and I'm able to build them very quickly, but I'm not really looking for the fidelity, right? You with me? Yeah? All right. One builds on another. Okay. We're going to fake the rest. Let's talk about some other tools. There's a whole bunch of tools that are out there. Figma, I've mentioned because it's probably, but there's a bunch of others. Bunch of tools now. You can build stuff so fast just using AI, right, to prompt. But here's the thing. Remember why you're prototyping something. Remember why am I doing this? It's not, the problem with AI is sometimes you get like a finished app right away. And what you're really after is to the best experience for a user. Does that make sense? Right? So it's like, I don't really need a finished app. What I really need is a couple options to be able to look at and to test and to try out and to get feedback from real users on. The problem is with AI, a lot of times I'm prompting and I'm the only person that's validating it. And my whole goal is I really want to be thinking about the other people that are out there and get them to validate those interactions and those kinds of things that we're working through. Yeah. There was a, what's that? I think so. Yeah, that's actually what we were using on this previous screen was Envision, and I don't think they're around anymore. Yeah, because basically they were like images that you would hotspot. Are they dead? Are they gone? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I need to update that. There's a lot of things. Those things, man, they go out of, they're like JavaScript frameworks, honestly, right? Right? That's fair. All right, I love this quote. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, then a prototype is worth 1,000 meetings. Yeah, right? Todd Zaki Warfel. It's a great book. It's an old book. It's out of print probably. It's worth reading. It'll tell you how to do prototyping in fireworks. That's weird. Yeah, it's that old. That's how old this book is. But a lot of the principles there are still so good. So I still recommend it. This is a product called Indigo Studio. I'm going to skip over because you've never heard of Indigo Studio. But PowerPoint. Do you guys have PowerPoint on your computer already? Does everybody at your work already have it? Yeah. Is it free still? I think for the iPad. I think for iPad and for the iPhone, I don't even think you have to buy it. I think it's like free in the marketplace, right? Which is amazing. So it's this great tool that you can organize and click to. And so one simple way is you just create screenshots and you can click through them. Hey, that's great. I can get a pretty good interaction there. A little more advantage. Advanced-ish, is that a advanced-ish? That works. Okay, thank you. So you can turn off the clicking goes advances a slide. You can turn that off, and then you can grab specific buttons and hyperlink and send them to other slides. Name your slides. Nothing's worse than like, I go to slide 3, go to slide 4. Oh, then you moved something and it's out of order. So name your slides, and that way you can see it visibly when you're hyperlinking to things that you're actually, this is going to the about screen, or this is going to the, right? You can use storyboard widgets. We'll talk in a second. Change your slide size so that it matches actually like an iPad dimensions or an iPhone dimensions, depending on what you're testing. I don't know if you knew you could do that, right? So you don't have these like weird black bars around. I do not have time to demo this, but you can use Shape Merge and it'll change your life. Okay, we would demo this later, and you can cut holes in things and then put scrolling things behind them. And you're just like, holy cow. Make your first slide look like the OS launch screen. Make your very first slide be a screenshot of your iPad. So then your very first click takes you into the app, and you don't even realize. I had a friend, actually, when I was at Get There, went and demoed their new app at a conference with real customers. The whole thing they built, it wasn't PowerPoint, it was, what's the Mac version? Keynote, thank you. They built the whole thing in Keynote. And the cool thing about Keynote is when you use the transitions, it matches the native transitions. So that's also really, really powerful. All right, so I'm gonna, don't worry about storyboarding. If you want storyboarding, you need to be on a Windows machine. And you can find the plugin, but it's a little outdated. I linked to it from here. If you want it, you can go get it. And I got the links for it, and we're gonna move. Yeah, there you go. Enough of that. All right, that's old. Let's talk about something powerful. Yeah, you gotta think about things. Come on. We're gonna get to the good stuff. You guys wanna get to the good stuff? Good. All right, so one of my good friends, Brian Sullivan, he runs he runs a big design conference, and also he runs the UI UX meetup that runs every month. He wrote this book called The Design Studio Method. It's a great book. If you want to flip through it, I've got it with me. And I got to be there when he was developing these practices. And so it's a really powerful approach. This is a book I can't recommend more. Here's the idea, right? So the design studios are an innovation method to force you out of a common response, and participants must use creative and critical thinking to produce innovative results. Here's the idea. You think of design and sketching, all these skills we've been building up and prototyping, not just in isolation, but to solve real business needs, solve real challenges, real problems, and so now you're facilitating a session, right? So back with a brand new, yeah, same thing, right? So creative problem solving is looking at the same thing as everyone else and thinking of something different. Back with a brand new, okay. Not going to spend too much time in these because we're out of it, but think about the supplies. Make sure it's a session. A design studio session is like anywhere from a 1 to 6 hour session with you have someone on the technology, someone representing the customer, which is often UX, sometimes a customer support person, and someone representing the business, and getting people together and going through specific process in order to generate ideas that address what you're looking at, and then practices to narrow down to solutions. Okay, and so really powerful, highly recommended. Something grabs a hold of me tightly, so don't fixate on a solution, iterate and learn new things. Does anybody know what a 6-up paper is? It's a piece of paper with 6 boxes on it. If you don't have one, just take a piece of paper and fold it 3 times and then fold it again, open it up, and there you go. You have unlimited templates. It's amazing. There are some supplies that help when you're doing a design studio session. Not gonna, honestly, it's just some processes you want to spend some time on. Anything less than the best of the felony, so make the time worth it, right? So actually getting people to set aside this time to travel in, to get focused on what you're doing. I mentioned earlier technology, someone to represent the user, someone to represent the business. The technology is what's possible, right? You guys ever heard of hashtags? I was there when the conversation happened on Twitter about this idea of someone came up with the idea of a hashtag, and he said, you know what we should do is we should do this the hash symbol just like ICR would create channels and groups. And as soon as he described it, I was like, that's the worst idea ever. I already get the fail whale enough. That'll never scale. And like the next week, Twitter shipped it. So I'm a big believer in the person who says it can't be done needs to get out of the way of the person who's doing it, right? But that's always a challenge. As a technologist, you're always like, that's not, well, let me think about it. Maybe we can figure out a way to do it. What's desirable, that's UX, and then what's profitable is the business. You guys hearing that? That is okay. I'm glad I can hear it. It means I'm not that old, right? It's one of those apps. It's like kids. Anyways, we're gonna keep moving. If there's a problem, I'll solve it. So get the right people in the room at the right time. Come on, Vanilla Ice. This is a bunch of stuff we're gonna skip. And if my machine would go next or blank on me. Yeah. All right. If you ain't quick and nimble, I go crazy when I hear that symbol. In other words, quantity over quality. We already talked about that. All right. Learning is the goal, not perfect prototypes. Okay, we just skipped like 3 steps so we could get to here, okay? Drilling into specific solutions, repeat. So I mentioned this one earlier, and I talked about this and talked about the lessons that were learned. And again, we weren't after the perfect design and sketch, but it was a learning process, okay? And that's what I really want to get to, is use sketches as a way to learn about your users, learn about the product. Learning is the goal. Have fun. All right. That's it. Y'all, thanks for the extra time. Thanks for the extra filling in.